Today, I'm going to share some lessons learned from the security breach that happened to PayPal accounts in December of 2022. Here, I'm sharing the PayPal notice that was issued by PayPal in January of 2023 addressing the issue. So it says, on December 20th, 2022, we confirmed that unauthorized parties were able to access your PayPal customer account using your login credentials. We have no information suggesting that any of your personal information was misused as a result of this incident, or that there are any unauthorized transactions on your account. There's also no evidence that your login credentials were obtained from any PayPal systems. Based on PayPal's investigation to date, we believe that this unauthorized activity occurred between December 6, 2022 and December 8, 2022, when we eliminated access for unauthorized third parties. During this time, the unauthorized third parties were able to view and potentially acquire some personal information for certain PayPal users. One thing I'd like to highlight about this statement that was issued by PayPal is that they state that there is no evidence that the login credentials were obtained from any PayPal systems. So what this implies is that these credentials that were used by the hackers were likely obtained from accounts that were created by these users in other websites that are not as secure. And then these hackers just went around trying to infiltrate other websites using these credentials, and PayPal just happened to be one of them that had this vulnerability. This type of security breach is also known as a credential stuffing attack. What this means is that in this scenario, these bad actors, aka the hackers, obtain security credentials from other websites that have lax security measures. Now, they take these credentials and then they use things like bots to try and log into other websites. And unfortunately, if you recycle the credentials from website to website and the hackers are able to use the bots on a website that you're already on, then they'll be able to log in if that website does not have the necessary security precautions in place. Let's go ahead and see what are some of the lessons learned from this credential stuffing security breach at PayPal. All right, one thing you want to do is change your password if you have access to your account. So your account has been breached. In this case, PayPal had been breached. So if you still have access to your PayPal account, go ahead and first of all, change your password and make it a unique password that's long and complex. And the point of doing this is that you immediately stop the damage that's been done to your account. So you go ahead and deny access to any hackers that are still trying to access your account. So you change your password, and that way, at least you can prevent any further damage to your account information. In addition to that, go ahead and change this password or your credentials wherever else that you use the exact same credentials. So if you use these credentials at PayPal and you have them on a different account, say your Netflix or your Spotify, go ahead and change those credentials there as well, because there's a likelihood that those could also be compromised. Another lesson learned is that we should always maintain credential uniqueness. What does that mean? As much as possible, do not use the same login credentials across different websites. So, for example, if your email is user@gmail.com and your password is admin123 $, do not use those same credentials elsewhere. Do not have those same credentials to log into your PayPal or to your online banking or to your crypto account, whatever. Do not recycle credentials. Always have unique credentials across your accounts, because if someone gets a hold of your login information and they're able to do this credential stuffing and you've used it across several popular websites or several websites in general, then you'll be in trouble, because they'll be able to log in, especially if there's no secondary form of authentication on those websites, such as like a multi-factor authentication. So it's best to just have unique credentials for all your platforms, especially your email. Do not use your email and password as a login to another website, and that's the same email and password that you use to log into your email. That is extremely, extremely dangerous. Another takeaway from this security breach at PayPal is the importance of having two-factor authentication enabled. What two-factor authentication means is that you have 2 steps before you're actually let into your account. The first step is verifying something you know. In this case, in most websites, something you know is your username and your password. So you know that it's in your memory. You type that in. The second step is something you have. Typically, this is a code that's either sent to you via email or text message, or it's generated via an authenticator app such as Google Authenticator or Authy, or a whole variety of authenticator apps that are out there. But the point is that it doesn't only rely on what you know, it relies on what you have. So that provides an extra level of security for you. If you used the same credentials for your email that you used on the site that was hacked, there's a possibility that whoever hacked your website, or whoever hacked the website that you're on and into your account, they can also just log into your email and grab the code that is sent there. So this again highlights the importance of using unique credentials in or across your accounts, and also favoring authenticator apps over email two-factor authentication capabilities or features, right? So if you are creating an account and they say, hey, do you want to enable two-factor authentication? And you select enable and they tell you choose one, always favor the authenticator app, because that's something you always have on you. You always have your phone, and it's harder to hack that as opposed to an email, where if you have shared the same login credentials for your email and you use that in other accounts and those accounts have been compromised, it's pointless, because now the bad actors can still log into your account and get it. So in short, make sure you have two-factor authentication enabled, and make sure you favor the authentication app or text message option, because that's another thing, because they can send a message to your phone and you can use it. But email two-factor authentication should be your last option. Even if it's still an option, make it your last option. But also, the overarching message here is that make sure you do not use the same credentials across your accounts. You should also be wary of emails that contain links. When links are present in an email, you should hover your mouse over the links to view the actual link URL, and do not click the link if you're unsure of the destination URL or website, because sometimes when you click the link, it could execute a malicious script in your browser, and then that script could be used for anything. It could be used to key log, so that if you're typing in your username and password, it's logging your keys and sending them to a remote endpoint for storage, and then people have access to your credentials for various websites. So just be wary about clicking links. As an example, let's imagine that this is text that came through an email. The email is from Good Site. So it says, welcome to Good Site. Click here to sign up for your newsletter. And what you'd want to do is hover over it, and you see that the actual link is going to https www.evilsite.com, which clearly is not goodsite.com. And if the pop-up here is not available when you hover over the link, you can also just right-click the link, copy the address, and then paste it in a text editor to see what it looks like. And you can see here that it's not a legitimate link. Bad actors can gain access to your personal information. What is phishing? It is a fraudulent practice of sending emails or other messages purporting to be from reputable companies in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information such as passwords and credit card numbers. So, for example, you could find a company or a bad actor masquerading as a reputable company, and they send you perhaps an email, a text message, or they call you and leave a voicemail saying that, hey, we need your username and password because of XYZ. But most reputable companies, if not all, would not ask you for your for your credentials over a phone call or a text or an email message. They'll always do it through secure means. So anytime you receive some type of message that's asking for credentials, always be skeptical and reach out to the company itself and ask if that is an actual credible message. This last lesson is going to be directed towards the web application itself and not to the users. So the previous tips I gave were targeted toward the users, but this is targeted towards the actual web application itself and or the application developers. So what do I mean by device awareness? So for example, with my online banking, if I log in through my my home laptop, I have no problem. I'll log in and I'll log in fine. But then if I try and log in through my iPad, I will have a second step where I'll have to provide some extra information. For example, there'll be some security questions that I'll have to answer. And so this is what I mean by device awareness. As a web app developer or as a software engineer developing systems where sensitive information is at stake, there should be these measures in place that are able to thwart or mitigate any security breaches. So, for example, if, sure, let's say the bad actors have my username and password, but then they're logging in from Eastern Europe or something, or Africa or wherever. Since that's a different IP address, the app should be able to prompt them for a second piece of information, perhaps security questions. And since they do not have that information, they will not be able to log in. And this is just one way or an extra step of making sure that anything that feels like it's out of the norm, like the system detects that it's out of the norm, it should be able to like provide a second step. But by default, all systems, I believe, should have two-factor authentication. But at the very base, I think if there's some type of device awareness where even like the system itself is able to recognize that the IP addresses being used are different, or the device itself is different, a laptop versus a mobile versus an iPad, I think that would have really helped or will help in reducing the amount of damage that is done because of having the extra step, and that being information that the bad actors do not have.